On today's Ask Connie Anything question, I had to bring in the expert. So first, we're going to set the stage. This question is from Britta Green Violet, and she's asking about what the differences are between a sole proprietorship and an LLC. So I brought in Cooper Warner with Namaste Law, and I will set the stage here. She is an attorney, and she's going to give advice for Oregon and Washington. If you are in a different state, please seek out your own legal advice. So Cooper, how do we get this started? Do we want to explain the difference between the sole proprietorship and what an LLC is?
Yeah, okay. I think that sounds like a great start. And I will just expand a little bit on your disclaimer that you just made, because what I'm sharing with you today and what everybody's going to be listening to is general legal advice, and no matter if somebody is listening in and located in Oregon or Washington, it still makes sense to reach out to an attorney and have their own conversation, just because what I'm saying may not be the best advice or totally applicable. So just want to make that point clear. And so a sole proprietor versus an LLC, great question. Regardless of whether you're starting out as a new business or you're already existing as a business, a sole proprietor may make sense. And a sole proprietorship is one person, just one, going out into the world and doing business. So providing a specific service or selling a specific product. It's that one person going out into the world doing business without doing anything else. So
usually they're usually doing business under their name.
So usually it can be their legal name. So using myself as an example, when I started providing legal services, I didn't do this, but if I just started as Cooper Warner, I would have created a sole proprietorship, me being the sole proprietor, my business being the sole proprietorship. And that wasn't actually the case, because I went out and did business, but I chose to do business from the start as Namaste Law. So something that a lot of sole proprietors overlook is the fact that, while a registration is not necessary to create a sole proprietorship, a registration is usually necessary, definitely in Oregon and Washington. I can't speak to every state, but usually a registration is required if you're doing business in a different name that is not your personal name.
Yeah.
So that's, commonly referred to as a doing business as name, but in Oregon they call it an assumed business name.
An ABA.
ABN.
Oh, ABN. Yeah.
Okay. And then in Washington it's called a trade name. So even though the states border one another, they of course call it different things. And, so in Oregon, it's a registration that's required every 2 years. So you pay $50 and maintain that as long as you continue to do business in that name. So as long as I'm doing business as Namaste Law, I have to keep that assumed business name registration active. In Washington, it's $5. And so, there's a little bit of price discrepancy, but, the huge advantage of having a sole proprietorship is there's just not a lot that's required to start doing business.
And just one question on that. So once you do that way nobody else can do business under that assumed name or that trade name. Got it.
Yeah, in that state. So, so that's the only, one registration that may be required. But again, if, you do business just as Connie and me just as Cooper, then that DBA registration is taken off the table. So, that's the basics of the sole proprietorship. LLCs, on the other hand, do require a registration. So it's with the Secretary of State. If you're in Oregon, you submit a form with the Oregon Secretary of State. In Washington, it's the Washington Secretary of State. And that creates an official LLC. You cannot go out and do business as an LLC without registering. So that's one very important distinction between the two of them. And LLCs can be made up of just one business owner or multiple business owners. So a single owner LLC is called a single member LLC. Those terms are synonymous, business owner and member.
Right.
In the LLC world, you don't talk about members with sole proprietorships. It's the sole proprietor, sole proprietorship with LLCs. These are all random distinctions, but you'll see these terms used on registration forms.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, okay.
So that's the reason that I talk a lot about terminology, because you'll see it and maybe not necessarily know what exactly the states are talking about. So, and then 2 or more members of an LLC, that's a multi-member LLC.
Okay.
So that's just terminology-wise, the difference between the two. And then, just one other point to make about registrations with limited liability companies, LLCs, you have to include either limited liability company or LLC in the name.
Oh,
So-
okay.
That's just a requirement. So when you're thinking about names for your LLC, just know that you have to include the LLC or limited liability company on there.
Has to be.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So the difference between the sole proprietorship and an LLC really has to come down to the registration with each state and what you want to call the business.
Yes, very generally. I mean, once you do create an LLC, there's other obligations that you
Right.
have. But for purposes of this specific question, we'll just leave it at that, yes.
So if you want the extra, and we'll talk about the protection from an LLC, but if you want to take that an extra step, you have to make sure that LLC is registered with the state. And if you're doing business other than your personal name, your legal name, that you're getting an assumed business name registration or a trade name registered in Washington to use that name.
Correct.
Okay, I think that wraps up this question. We're going to take it a little further on our next question. But if this triggered other questions for you, use the link, send it in. And until next time, I'm wishing you much joy, success, and of course, always profits. See ya.